12 major differences between The Walking Dead TV show and comics. Superfans know the show is based on the comic of the same name, but did you know about the differences between the show and the comics? Mellow Morgan. Morgan is very intense in the show. He continues to be until the point of lunacy. In the comics, he's depicted as more level-headed. Down on Hershel's farm. Hershel's farm is a mere pit stop in the comics, but the second season of the show takes place almost exclusively on the farm. Shane the villain. Shane lasts much longer in the show, making it to the end of season 2. Shane doesn't quite make it as far in the comics. He's dispatched before the group leaves the camp outside of Atlanta. Right-hand man. One very obvious difference to people up to date on the comics is Rick's hand, or lack thereof. In the show, Rick still has both hands, but he lost it to the governor in the comics. Carol's journey. In the show, Carol makes an amazing transition from doormat to stone-cold killer. However, in the comics, Carol doesn't progress much. What, no Daryl? One of the biggest and well-known differences between the show and the comics is the addition of Daryl. He's nowhere to be seen in the comics. Tyrese's story. Tyrese shows up before the group reaches the prison in the comics and is traveling with his daughter and her boyfriend. Lori's death. Many fans didn't care much for Lori on the show, but she lasted longer in the comics. She dies during the governor's raid on the prison, but her death comes earlier in the show. A different Andrea. Andrea was another character that people weren't crazy about due to her hot and cold emotions and her defection to Woodbury. In the comics, Andrea becomes a sharpshooter and leader of the group. Hershel's barn. Hershel housing a barn full of walkers was a major twist in the show. He never comes clean to the group about it. In the comics, Hershel is pretty upfront about what he's keeping out there. So Long, Sophia. Speaking of the barn, the disappearance and subsequent search for Carol's daughter Sophia was a major story arc during season 2 of the show. In the comics, she survives and is allowed to develop an innocent relationship with Carl. Dale's demise. Dale's path is much different in the show compared to the comics. Dale and Andrea had a complex relationship, but in the comics they actually end up together.